Warahmatullahi Ta'ala Wabarakatuh, and a pleasant afternoon to each and everyone. And this afternoon, I'm going to present my research thesis proposal entitled Social Media Use, Perceived Risk and Adherence to Preventive Behaviors, its relation to the impact of COVID-19 among government office workers at Colosio. Proposal defends in partial fulfillment of the requirements for the degree of Master of Arts in Nursing, major in Administration. My name is Asha Muhammad Ali, second non-student from MSU Sulu. Let me start my presentation with the introduction to explain the background and the face of the problem. COVID-19 has significantly affected different elements of living around the world as a worldwide health issue. Statistics are increasing based on different sources and individuals. In this pandemic, COVID-19 are more connected than ever before because of rapid access of information like social media. Communication has never been more important now in dealing with public anxiety, but it also encouraging risk awareness, empowering the public to take preventive measures, and return back the public confidence and trust by Liao and Fielding, 2014. Today, during the pandemic, there are risk communication and challenges facing, particularly among government office workers, because they are highly expected to perform their duty and responsibility by providing people's essential needs of service by Shabbat 2009. Cases still continue to appear despite of public initiative in restricting and mitigating the spreading of coronavirus in the Philippines. It also expanded throughout the country, especially here in Holosulu, despite of being an isolated island in the southern part of the Mindanao. There are gaps and neglect on part of the public application of COVID-19 measure. In literature, it reveals that this pandemic, acquiring of information, risk perception, preventive behaviors, and the impact of COVID-19 are more important. On people's perspective, studies give timely and relevant evidence in determining the optimal preventive action that can be required to rectify virus misconception and misunderstanding. This could be possibly true among government office workers at Colosio. Thus, this study will attempt to explore and describe the social media use, perceived risk, and adherence to prospective behaviors of government office workers at Colosio and its relation to the impact of COVID-19 on their lives. The next is the theoretical framework. This study will be anchored from the following theory: the system model theory by Betty Newman, human relation theory by Alfon Mayo, and the theory X and the theory Y by MacGregor. For system model, it is based on the assumption that nursing requires a holistic approach to individual response to actual or potential environmental stress. In relation, it addressed many factors affected by stressor, such as interpersonal and extrapersonal extrapersonal feelings, like government office workers. For human relation theory, it depicts the idea of improving employees by focusing on changing some working conditions, such as break times, length of working hours, and days. In relation, it can be used in experimentation on the productivity and improvement of employees' performance. Last is the theory X and theory Y. It has two different assumptions which correspond to the relationship between the managers and the subordinates. It signifies and related to the study as it explains the dimension of statistical that is requires pre-fulfillment need. The next is the conceptual framework. This study, the independent variable or social media use, perceived risk of COVID-19, adherence to preventive behaviors on COVID-19. The dependent variable is the impact of COVID-19 to the government office workers of Losulu. These four variables will try to be explored and describe the findings, and further will do a correlation of the independent and the dependent variables. For the statement of the problem, I came up with seven SOP. Number one is what is the role and use of social media in acquiring information about COVID-19 among government office workers? What is the perceived COVID risk of pandemic COVID-19 among government office workers at Holosulu? Number three, what is the adherence to preventive behaviors on pandemic COVID-19 among government office workers at Holosulu? Number four, what is the impact of pandemic COVID-19 among government workers at Holosulu? Five, is there a significant relationship between the role and the use of social media in acquiring information about COVID-19 and the impact of pandemic 19 to the government office workers at Holosulu? Number six, is there a significant relationship between the adherence to preventive behaviors on pandemic COVID-19 and the impact of COVID-19 to the government office workers at Holosulu? Last, is there a significant relationship between the adherence to the preventive behaviors of COVID-19 and its impact to the government office workers at Holosulu? For the null hypothesis, it derives from the statement of the problem 1, 5, 6, and 7 that there is no relationship between the independent and the dependent variables. And it based on the SOP 5 to 7 as the counterpart of the null hypothesis 1 only. For the significance of the study, the conduct of the study will be significant to the following: government office workers, government offices, Department of Health, local government unit, researcher, and the future researchers. For the scope and the limitation, the central focus is on the use of social media in acquiring information about COVID-19 among government workers, which include the perceived risk on pandemic COVID-19, adherence to preventive behaviors on COVID-19, and the impact of COVID-19 on their lives. The scope and limitation for the respondents will be government workers who had been employed for not less than 6 months prior to conduct of the study and must be willing to participate. For the definition of terms, each terms are defined conceptually and operationally. Conceptually means terms are based on an existing definition from literature and dictionary, while operationally have defined the term based on how it is applicable to the study. For the review of literature, related literature and studies of this research are thematically arranged or presented in which variable being studied are presented based on themes. As you can see, the role of social media during pandemic has been explored. Another variable also is about the perceived risk or risk perception and COVID-19 and the impact of COVID-19 and the adherence and impact of COVID-19. For the research design, this chapter 3, this study will adapting or applying a quantitative descriptive inferential, particularly correlational method. Basically, quantitative descriptive, it is based on exploring and describing the quantitatively the social media, the perceived risk or the variables being studied. While correlational, since the study will aim to find and explore significant relationship between independent and dependent variables. For the research local, the research study will be conducted in Sulu Provincial Hospital and the Department of Hospital Sulu Sanitario. This has been selected because these local or government offices are very supportive in terms of research and initially with permission. It could be assisted in doing study in the respective offices. That's the reason why I have included this prospective office or government sector in government sector office, particularly in hospital in Holosulu, because it partially granted for permission to conduct the study. For the respondent of the study, the respondent that will be considered in this research are based on the following criteria. They must be officially employed in the aforementioned offices regardless of their position and designation. Has been working in the government office at least 6 months or more. It started the employment less than a month or earlier before the pandemic and thus is willing to participate in the research study. Since there could be a limited number of participants and the aforementioned office, me, together with my advisor, decided to consider total remuneration of the respondent as will be included as participants in the study, since the total remuneration will be adapted so there will be no computation needed in the sample. This research will be using a researcher-made questionnaire and adapted part of questionnaire. For part 1, the social media, it is a researcher-made questionnaire. Then the part 2, 3, and 4 is an adapted questionnaire from Reck, Freeman, Reinhardt, Kieser, and Hedberg in the year of 2020. For the instrument and reliability, since it has a researcher part made questionnaire, so it will be subjected to validity and reliability. First, It will be validating the questionnaire by consulting the advisor and group of experts, and of course the panel member for the validity of the instrument. After the validation is established, it will be pursuing to the reliability testing the questionnaire by allowing at least 30 government workers to answer the researcher-made questionnaire, and the result will be subjected to Cronbach alpha reliable coefficient test. After it validated and reliability tested and found to be reliable and valid, so there will be a gathering data to identify on participant based on the data gathering. And after the successful of data gathering, considering the standard protocol and the data gathering like the IATF guideline, however, it will be guided to do a face-to-face for personal conduct of the study. But if there is a constraint, optionally, uh, if there is a constraint, optionally, we will proceed for an online method data gathering to Google Forms. After the successful collection of data, it will be processed using statistical package for the social science or the SPSS with the assistance of the advisor and the statistician. And the following statistical tools will be using in this study as follows. The frequency, simple percentage, measure of central tendency by mean, standard deviation, the Kramer's p with p coefficient, and last is the Pearson R coefficient and Spearman Rho coefficient. Rho correlation. So that's the end of my presentation. I would like to take the opportunity to thank everyone for giving their valuable time, especially to my advisor and the panel member for attending my research proposal presentation. And I would be very I would be appreciating much if there will be some recommendation and suggestion for the improvement of my research topic. So once again, thank you. This is Asha Mohammed Ali. That's the end of my, this is my proposal research defense. Thank you.